Kenny Stills' reaction was bafflement. Like, what? I don't really get what he's trying to do.
Right.
So Kenny's reaction was, for the most part, I think it was him seeing if I could handle if people are going to heckle me or play Jay-Z in another stadium.
Right.
If I could be mentally strong enough to handle that sort of treatment. Yeah, he will be.
Right.
He'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Kenny's been campaigning. He's been trailblazing for a long time. He's been doing this for, I don't know, 5 years.
I think the thing is, Skip, plus you can imagine what he receives on his social media.
Oh,
you probably
he's
can
talking
imagine
about the death threats.
Right, you can imagine what he receives in some places that he go publicly. So it's hard for me to imagine that playing a Jay-Z song over the loudspeaker would have a greater impact than him receiving death threats or some of the comments that he's receiving on social media. It's just hard for me to believe that. And it seems that he's been dealing with this Cap thing kicked off in 2016, and he's been, front and center ever since then, and he's still been performing. So clearly, it has not impacted him like Brian Flores. But Skip, if you're not careful here, you see how this thing is trending, right? Now, when they release Kenny Stills, what is it going to be? Because, he wasn't performing well. They've already building this thing in that Kenny Stills is not playing like Kenny Stills we know.
Yeah. Brian Flores went way out of his way to talk about how much he applauds what they're all doing. Like, he's talked about Cap, Eric Reid, Kenny. He said, I even told Kenny in our meeting in front of the entire team how much I believe in what he's doing. And again, back to the first quote from him that I read, quite honestly, they're bringing attention to my story. I just think he was offended that Kenny took a shot at Jay-Z. And I'm not sure that I'm with you that he's just trying to get him to be in line because of the owner, Stephen Ross. I think this is more personal on Brian's part, but that's just me.
Okay. I won't fight you on that, but like I said, he didn't have to add that part, Skip, that he should have reached out to the owner first. He could have left that part out. And once he says, okay, you could have reached out to him, the owner knew how Kenny Stills. He's been fighting for the guy that you're supporting from day one.
Nothing new.
Yes. So what? And Kenny said, why would I reach out to him? I already know. I've already had a conversation with him, several conversations. I know where he stands. He knows where I stand. It just feels like we're just spinning our wheels. We just like, we're going to agree to disagree. And that's the terminology that he used. And that's why Kenny's like, I'm not going to reach out to you because I already know how you feel and where you stand.
Okay.
Okay, well, this next story, guys, is important to address given what we just talked about. Panthers safety Eric Reid delivered a late hit straight to the head of Patriots tight end Ben Watson last night. Now, Reid was flagged for unnecessary roughness, and thankfully, Watson was able to walk off the field on his own. Reid faced questions after the game if the hit was intentional after he recently had a disagreement with Watson. Reid was quoted over the weekend asking if any good has come from a recent deal that the Players Coalition had in place with the league for national and local projects. Watson, who is involved with the Players Coalition, responded on Twitter telling Reid he was wrong. Another angle. Shannon, did Reid's hit on Watson, did it look intentional to you?
Skip, it's hard to determine intent because you have to get in someone's mens rea. You have to get into their mindset. And intent only matters, Skip, to the individual that's committed the act. I had a professor that asked me one time, he said, Shannon, do you know the difference between murder and manslaughter? And I'm like, I couldn't, Skip, I was a freshman. No. He says, it's intent. But Ben Watson still has a headache, whether Eric Reid meant to do it or not. His head still hurts this morning. It just, whether he intended it or not, he made no effort to pull up. Ben Watson's on the ground, Skip. I mean, what did he think? He thought that no one touched him and that Ben could get up and run. Ben was down, and he hit him in the head. I think this has more to do with the coalition and how Ben Watson is very involved in the Players Coalition. And Eric Reid feels like he and Cap has been pushed aside. And a lot of the work that they started has been co-opted by this new Players Coalition, and Eric Reid has taken offense to that. I don't know if Eric Reid saw Ben Watson's quote. I don't know. But I do know how Eric Reid feels about some of the guys in the Players Coalition, Malcolm Jenkins, and some of these other guys. So I think that had a lot to do with it. He knew, to say that he didn't know that was Ben Watson, I don't believe he can't convince me that he didn't know that was Ben Watson. And he went directly for the head, Skip.
He did.
So I'm not going to say, well, I'm intending to hit him, but he did not. he intended to hit him. I don't know if he intended to hit him in his head, but that doesn't matter. Intent doesn't matter. The victim is just as injured whether you meant to do it or not, because intent only matters to the individual that's committing the act. Because Ben Watson, his head hurts just as much this morning whether he meant to do it or not.
Correct. I had two reactions to this. I watched it live, and then I read about the backstory, and I slept on it, and I reacted again when I woke up this morning and saw the play again on the highlight shows, again and again and again. My first reaction was there has been an open rebellion on the part of lots of players and some coaches, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, against preseason football, period.
Okay.
Right.
They just don't want to play it anymore, to the point something's going to have to give here because the owners are still charging the same prices.
Exactly.
And it just gets worse and worse. And obviously, the trigger for all this is just preseason senseless, needless injuries. Why should you inflict these injuries upon your players in games that don't count?
Right.
Well, we can debate that all day long,
Right.
because they do count in a way, because they count toward game one. But that's a whole nother issue.
And the thing was,
okay?
Skip, they've always played preseason. We've always been, but now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
we seem more concerned now than we ever were before.
When I was growing up, they had 6 preseason
Yes.
games. Think about that. 6?
You went away for a long period of time.
Okay. So I'm watching this play live, and I've followed Ben Watson's career for a long time, and he's now 38 years old, and he will be 39 in December, and he is considered an elder statesman
He
in
is.
the game.
Very well.
Can I go
respected.
highly respected?
Very.
I think so.
Very
Okay.
highly.
Very, okay.
So I'm thinking, I'm watching number 84 for the New England Patriots, Benjamin Watson, catch a pass, go down defenseless, and I see Eric Reid flying late and seem to go for his head.
Right.
Right? And I'm thinking, Eric Reid, what are you doing? Not only is this a preseason game, and not only are many of your brethren within the league having issues with getting hurt, but now you're playing over the edge,
Right.
taking a late shot, even if it was unintended. At that point, I didn't know about any intent. I just thought he was sort of playing out of control,
Right.
like it was reckless behavior
Okay.
on his part. In, albeit the quote unquote, it used to be the dress rehearsal game 3. I think that's passe now.
Right,
I don't think
yeah.
they're even saying this is our dress rehearsal.
Right.
They're just saying we're trying to get through game 3,
Right.
and game 4 is going to be our 4th stringers,
Right.
or whoever,
Yes.
nobody who's going to make our team is going to play game 4.
Yeah, let's
right?
get through these 4
Yeah.
meaningless games
Yes.
as easily as possible.
Okay, so it was very offensive to me that Eric Reid would allow that reckless behavior on that play against an elder statesman in a game that doesn't count.
Right.
And I just was, this had nothing to do with racial issues. I'm just thinking, what are you doing? Then I read the backstory.
Yeah.
And now I can't help but be at least highly suspicious
Right.
that there was intent, because Eric Reid takes this blood seriously.
Right.
Right? This
It's
whole
e-
cause.
Eric Reid made it easier to make that leap that this was intentional,
Yes.
because of the backdrop, because of the Players Coalition,
Correct.
and because of some of the things that he said on Twitter. And Ben Watson responded by saying, "You're wrong."
Okay, so I'm going to remind people that this has been about 4 years ago. Benjamin Watson wrote a book, and it's a long title, but I'm going to read it because it's significant. The book is called Under Our Skin: Getting Real About Race and Getting Free from the Fears and Frustrations That Divide Us. And it was a positive look at black-white relations. How can we improve them? It was all in the vein and mode of, how can we make this better? This is what it's for both black and white people. For the white people, this is what you don't understand about us. That was sort of the theme and spirit of the book. So his background is not dissimilar from yours. He's Rock Hill, South Carolina.
yeah.
So it's
I know where it is.
okay. You got it. And he went to Georgia, and you almost went to Georgia, but you're from rural South Georgia,
I
obviously.
think he started at Duke, though, Skip.
Did he?
I think he
Okay.
might have started at
I'm
Duke
not
and
even
then
sure. He
and
finished
transferred
at
to Georgia.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but
Okay.
that's an interesting note. And he has been very outspoken about his Christian faith,
He has.
just for the record.
Yeah,
And
he has.
so this is where he's coming from, and he's Players Coalition. How can we work with the league to fix this?
Right.
And you can have your issues because you can say, quote unquote, they give up too much, they
Right.
compromise too freely and quickly. But remember, the NFL did dedicate millions of dollars right, to social justice sort of reform platforms and any endeavors within the community. So he's saying, hey, we're at least making a little bit of progress. And Eric Reid is saying, well, progress this, because I'm going to hit you in the head. and it got me because he stung him to the point Ben Watson couldn't get up.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he's in concussion protocol. He have to be.
Yes.
Because he was wobbly coming off the field.
Well, my thing is, and he said he didn't want to get anybody hurt. Well, the one way you're not to get hurt somebody is make sure you don't hit them in the head. And Skip, I understand that there have been times that in the game where if I try to catch a pass and I duck, the guy's coming in, he thinks he's going to hit me in the chest. I'm bracing because I know he's coming. I duck into a blow. I'm not upset. But that right there, I believe that could have been avoided. Skipping, I think it was my last year in Minnesota. I was running a seam route, and the safety put his helmet right up under my chin. And he's like, my bad. Are you okay? I'm like, hell no, I ain't okay. You hit me under my chin full speed. What you think? You hit that man, is he all right? No, he's not all right. You just hit him in his head.
Okay, so now we get down to the code of NFL brethren. Is it superseded by any race issue that you would have, even if it's black man to black man?
No, for me, Skip, especially in a preseason game.
That's what I'm saying.
Skip, I'm not trying. Look, and we were notorious. We got on people's ankles and knees, but in the preseason game, I wasn't doing any of that. I'm not. Come on, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do this. You hit the man in the head.
Even though, Eric Reid is quote unquote willing to die for this cause. He's willing to sacrifice his career. He hasn't yet, but he seemed willing to, right?
Well, I ain't trying to die on the football field because you hit me in my head.
I got it.
Okay, that's a very worthy cause, and I'm all with you. And I think Eric Reid has done some great things, but I don't agree with everything that he does. I believe this hit could have been avoided. And something that can be avoided, we should try to avoid it, because at the end of the day, he's trying to provide for his family as you're trying to provide for yours, because you have to understand what goes around comes around. Sometimes you'll be standing around and then somebody dives into your knee and then you talk about that was uncalled for. Well, you had a play in the preseason that was uncalled for. So just be careful, because we must protect. It's a very physical game, and you have to protect one another.
If you had been a teammate of Benjamin Watson's last night, how would you have reacted?
I'd have yelled something on the field.
Okay, at Eric Reid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
That was some bull. You know what? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if those words were uttered. It wasn't visibly, I didn't see anybody visibly go after him.
Oh, yeah. Nah, you're not finna cheap shot. I don't care preseason, all that. Nah, you're not finna cheap shot my guy.
Reid did say that he didn't know. He tweeted at him that it's not something you're thinking about during the game. He was,
Did he not know that was Ben Watson?
Exactly.
Did he not know he had beef with Ben Watson?
Exactly. That's what.
So whether or not Skip
knew.
Exactly.
Yeah. He knew. He knew they'd be asking. Important to talk about, guys. But also, last night we saw more from Daniel Jones. Is it time to start Jones?
Yes.
In New York?
Stop
Bring
it
it on.
Ulterior motives.
Here we go.
We're going to go there next. Don't forget, you can check us out every day on the Fox Sports Channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.